Hello, this is my attempt at separating out the trail mix. So I have the trail mix with raisins, peanuts, chocolate and butterscotch chips, and M&Ms. So the chocolate and butterscotch chips will be counted together, and they make up 28% of the total. Uh, Peanuts make up 28 as well. Raisins make up 15, and M&Ms make up 29%. The first part of my method is to put them through a sieve or sieve, however you say it, with the holes are a little bit smaller than half an inch, about 0.48 of an inch, or 0.48 inches. Yeah, and that's on one side, and they're all cut square. And so yeah, I just have like little squares like that cut out with a knife, X-Acto knife. And then the tape you see is because some of them I cut too big, so I had to make them smaller or just cover them completely. So the first part, just gonna go ahead and dump everything in. Alright, sit here and sieve them out for a while. Do this for a long time. Not too long actually, about 3 to 5 minutes. It could be sped up by having more holes. Currently I only have 7 or 8. I just kind of ran out of cardboard and didn't have another place to put them. And I didn't want to just start ruining everything I have right now. So pretty much, so yeah, I'll just do this for another minute or so and then I'll be back. Hello, I'm back. So the sieving part took me exactly a minute and 37 seconds. So that's great. That gives me confidence because that's pretty quick. So now the second part, so after the sieving, I have all the M&Ms separated out, and I have the rest of it plus one M&M that made it through. So it'll obviously be in the percent error of one of the remaining parts. So the next part is to heat up a pan. And while I do that, I'm going to talk about how it's supposed to go. So I'll put the chocolate chips, raisins, and peanuts in the pan. The chocolate chips will melt a little bit, so they'll stick. They're not going to be in there for very long, because I don't want to melt them a ton. And so we have all of that laid out. That'll go in. The peanuts and raisins should slide right off, and I'll put them back on the paper towel, and then we'll have another step, one last step to separate them. And then the chocolate chips, I'll pull off what I can, and then all the leftover residue I'll wipe up with a paper towel, which I already have weighed, so that'll be put into the calculation for the percent error once it's that time. So the pan's getting kind of warm, so I think it's time to go. So right now, okay. So it's in there. Just get them spread out a little bit. Let them sit there for a couple seconds, or like 15 or 20, maybe not even that long, depending on how high the heat is. So I can already see the chocolate chips. They're starting to melt just a little bit, not too much. Obviously, we don't want to melt them all the way. And then you can just kind of move them around and dump off the extra. hopefully leaving most of the M&Ms. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next part. It smells pretty good in here, not gonna lie. Alright, so after the heating, where I melted the chocolate chips and then poured off the peanuts, so now we have three distinct groups where we have the peanuts and raisins. There was a little bit of butterscotch chips that melted and stuck to each. Anything that's grabbed together is usually broken up by a little bit of agitation. I didn't have any of that, but just in my previous testing, I've had that happen before. Then we have the chocolate chips, just the chips, the group, and then we have the paper towel that I used to clean everything up. There's not much on there, so I don't know if it'll really add to the overall weight at all. And then finally have the M&Ms that we separated in the beginning. So now I have a solution, a saltwater solution of, it is exactly 1/2 cup of, 1/2 cup of water, tap water, which mine is quite hard, so it might vary depending on where you get the water from, and exactly 1 tablespoon of salt. Again, this might vary depending on how many minerals, how hard your water is that you're using. So we have so now I'm going to separate the peanuts from the raisins by using floating. So yeah, let's get her done. So we got the raisins and the peanuts on here. I'm going to literally just drop them in, and then I will scrape off the peanut. The peanuts should float, so I'll just scrape them off the top with the fork, and then I can just strain out the solution, and I should be able to get the raisins. This is the part that I've had to do the most testing on, just to get the solution right so that it floats correctly. So yeah, so just gonna get everything in my hand here and go ahead and start dropping them in kind of slowly so I don't get a ton of splashback. So far so good, peanuts are floating. Might have wanted to do this with a bigger dish just because things are starting to get stuck a little bit. So we got the peanuts, we can scrape those out with the fork or any other little strain, like if you have a little strainy spoon thingy, that would work even better. So yeah, I just basically do this. I'll finish up with this. Takes a little bit to get it's like trying to fish Cheerios out of a bowl, so it's a little difficult to get all of them together without dropping any. So I'll get back to you once I have everything separated out again. So see you in a bit. So just got that all separated out. So now we have the peanuts, and then we have this solution which contains an M&M, which is slightly concerning because it's dyeing the water, but it's nothing to be too worried about. So then I'm just gonna separate the things out. So now we have it all strained off. I can set that on my other paper towel. Alright, so finally, since the peanuts and raisins obviously absorbed some water while they were being separated by density, I will dry them off by basically just putting them over heat in a pan just for like 15 seconds or so, just to try and get some of the residual water off of it. So As you can see, the peanuts separated out very well. None of the raisins floated at all. There is just a little bit of butterscotch left on a couple of them, but that will be, so we have that done. So those are dried. Then I have the raisins, which contain actually a lot more than just the raisins, but you can tell that they soaked up a lot more water, which would obviously throw off the results of the mass. So yeah, just gonna kind of let them heat up a little bit and maybe dry off a little bit. Hopefully nothing else melts super bad. Obviously the butterscotch is going to melt a little bit, so we're going to turn that off. A little smoky. And so then that's that. All the excess that has been, all the excess on the pan, since it is presumably mostly the chocolate chips and stuff, I will wipe up with the paper towel here that I have already designated for that. It's a little hot right now, so I'll do that in just a second. So I'm sitting here at the weigh where I finally get everything figured out, percent error and stuff, and so I have the raisins on the scale, obviously, and then already weighed out the chocolate chips with the paper towel, and then subtracting the paper towel's weight, obviously. Then the peanuts, and finally the M&Ms. So you can see here, you have, I still have to put in the time for everything. I have to calculate that out from the videos. And then, so it starts here, we have 35.44, and then finally we have 34.74. So you can see we lost just a little over half, maybe, yeah, a little over half, almost 7.7. But then, as you can see, it's really good percent error on the chocolate chips with a 2%, and then same thing with the peanuts with a 4%. Raisins is a little bit bigger because I think I had that, the M&M that went into them. If that would have been sorted out and sieved, that would have been better. And then 7%. Overall, 9% error. So, I mean, I think I did quite well. Obviously, there's some ways that can be improved with the heating, and if I had an actual, if you would take more time and put them in the oven or just a drying chamber, like you would do with jerky, you could get all the excess water that was inside of the raisins, the peanuts, and that would even get the percent error smaller. And then obviously the sieve, that can be made a lot better. Because right now it's just squares cut out of a piece of cardboard, and that is not exactly very scientifically made. It's just made, kind of thrown together, but it worked well enough to get the job done, and I did it in a pretty reasonable amount of time. Total was probably around 5 minutes or so, probably a little less than that actually. So yeah, had a great time doing this, and can't wait to see what the next project holds.